Yeah, I decided I'm going to podcast standing. Maybe when things cool down a bit more, I can sit down. I don't think you can hear the air conditioner running. It's not hot. Well, I mean, I only turned on the air conditioner when I arrived. It will get cool. It's just not quite as cool as I was hoping yet.
It will get cool right before we finish.
Exactly.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 63.
Everyone has things they are passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on.
I pretty much run from air conditioning to air conditioning these days.
Oh, it is rough. It is rough today. You know, my family, we try to push it as much as we can by having our air conditioner on as little as possible, right?
You're a wonderful person then.
It is rough this week. I mean, there's no way. There's no way today. I mean, today got up to 38.
I'm going to be honest. During summer months, I almost consistently run my air conditioner.
Where you live is hard. Very infrequently can you get like a cross breeze. Like, you know, you only have windows on one side of your apartment. There's no way that you could get like a cross breeze kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I know that I couldn't. And often where my window is, all I'm getting if I open my window is dust. I'm going to get dust blowing into my apartment. And
where I used to live in that building, in a different apartment than you, I actually was one of the few people who could possibly get cross breeze. You know, I just cracked my front door open and I could because of the way my apartment was laid out. And luckily, because I was in between apartments, I was able to get a lot of heat from them, the neighboring apartments. So I think I had one of the more cost-effective apartments, but still, it was not easy.
I'll be fair and say that even running the air conditioner as much as I have, I run it a lot, but I run it at a higher temperature.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't run quite as hard. And I don't find it debilitatingly high of a bill. But then again, I'm also the type of person who, between choosing to spend a little bit more money and to live a little bit more comfortably, there are certain things that I will choose to spend the money on. And let's be fair, air conditioning is one of those.
Well, yeah. We try to do as many tricks as we can. I mean, a few years ago, we purchased a pool, a 2,500 liter pool. So it's not small. I can lie down and stretch out my arms. My arms will touch the sides, but my head and feet wouldn't touch the ends. It's got another half a meter, more than half a meter on me. It's not small, but 4 people get a little tight, especially if my daughters are running around inside. You know, it'll cool you down. You know, we'll turn off the air. We'll try to do as much as we can in the morning with the air off as it's cool. And then when it starts getting hot, we'll do a little bit more and then we'll go into the pool. And then we'll play there for an hour or so, and then we'll relax inside, possibly needing to turn the air on for a few hours until it gets cool at night. But tonight, it's not even getting below, like, I don't know, it might get below 30 for a little bit, but like between 4 and 5 a.m. or between 3 and 4 a.m., which is like, oh, it's too late by that point. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to wake up at 3 a.m. to turn off the air?
No. So, and will it be worth it even? So it's going to be rough tonight. We put the futons in the first floor so we can only have to turn on one air conditioner. But man, it's rough.
Yeah, no, I have not turned off my air conditioner in a while. Because I am that weak to this much heat.
Well, you have no recourse. You have no recourse.
Nope. So yes, that is why when you saw me, I was pretty much, I think I was probably heading back from grabbing groceries. And so you were seeing me go from one air-conditioned area back home to another air-conditioned area.
We did finish our vacation to Hakone. And this time around, you know, looking at vacations this summer in general, I was pretty disappointed in the lack of reasonable options.
Okay, you're going to have to tell me what you mean by that.
Because basically everything has opened up again. Everybody has decided that they're going to fly. So what did the airlines do? Oh, I know what you can do. Everybody's going to fly. I'll just charge 50% or to twice as much for all your stuff. Because That way we can make back the money we lost in the last 2 years. So literally everything is 50% to twice as much.
That's why you don't go anywhere.
I know. Well, so that was the thinking. We don't go anywhere. Even the small trip to Korea, which would generally be 2 man, $200-ish per person, is like $300 per person. So it's like, yeah, we'll just charge you 50% more because we can. And, that's not too bad for one ticket. But when you're buying 5 and then planning for a hotel that's 50% more, it just adds up. People went back to America, and I would have loved to have gone back to America. But again, we're paying 50% to twice as much more, like for 5 tickets. That gets outrageous very quickly. So was not going to happen.
No.
But even travel in Japan is not. So, one of the things is we go to a hotel every year. I've talked about it on this podcast. We go to pretty much the same hotel in Ito every year. But that hotel was outrageous this year. It was like more than twice as much per room. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Why are you so much? It's not like it's a brand new hotel. It's not like they had brand new. Well, they did have some new construction, but they still got old rooms. There's still a lot of unremodeled rooms that I'm sure they have. It's not like they remodeled every room. So why are you charging so much? Anyway, very frustrating. So I decided that, well, we're just not going to go this year because I'm not going to pay that price, even for 1 or 2 nights. So I picked another hotel out in Hakone. Looked nice, had some good reviews, had a nice large room. We like to stay for quite a while. So I picked this hotel because, it's got nice large rooms and we can stay for a good amount of time. It said it had internet. It said it had, actually one of the nice things was it had more kitchen equipment, more pots and pans that you didn't have to rent. The hotel in Ito, when we go, there's a lot of stuff you have to rent if you want to. And then we just ended up instead bringing more of our own stuff because it was better than renting since we have it. So we would pack more things to go to that hotel for a longer time. Plates and stuff. But this hotel said, oh, no, we'll provide you plates and cups and forks and spoons and all the stuff so that you don't have to even bring it. So that was very nice. Very pleased. The kitchen was smaller, but workable still. So we got there. We start setting up. My wife pulls out her phone and checks the internet. And she says, Nate, the internet's slow. And, if my wife says the internet's slow, the internet's slow. So, of course, I pull up my phone, run my suite of tests that I have for school on the internet there. And yeah, it's slow. You can get a page to load, but it's less than 5 megabits per second down, which means that you're going to have a hard time watching Netflix or anything. So I'm like, oh, this is disappointing. So I go to the front desk and I say, the internet's slow in our room. Is there anything that can be done? And my wife wanted to threaten that we would just leave early because, we had planned a whole week basically there. And the guy goes, oh, you have to excuse us. The signal's weak in the mountains. And I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, the signal's weak in the mountains? What are you talking about the signal's weak in the mountains? Internet comes over a wire. What do you mean the signal's weak in the mountains? So the guy says, well, what if we just get you a Wi-Fi hotspot that you can put in your room? I'm like, okay, Wi-Fi hotspots aren't great. Maybe we'll get more than 5 megabits per second, but well, why don't you bring it over and we'll give it a try? So the guy shows up at the door with a Wi-Fi hotspot after 5 or so minutes, not too long, which is nice. And he hands it over to us and I take a look at it. And I'm realizing that the Wi-Fi hotspot, the SSID, the name of that network, is like a few digits off the name of the network that we were already trying to connect to. So now I'm realizing that the hotel is run all off of Wi-Fi hotspots.
Oh.
And this is why he says the signal is weak, in the mountains. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this whole hotel runs off Wi-Fi hotspots placed in, strategic rooms. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I was like, okay. So I ran tests, and having the Wi-Fi hotspot in our room was acceptable. At probably the lowest end, but acceptable. So I was like, okay, fine. We can do this. My daughters can watch their YouTubes. I can be on the internet doing the minimal things that I need to do. We'll be all right. We can live with this. So it was all fine and dandy until the 3rd day we were there, and all of a sudden everything stops. And, I was thinking when I got it that I should have asked this question, but when does this end? Like, what is the cap? Because, of course, Wi-Fi hotspots in Japan have caps. But, yep, sure enough, it capped at 50 gigabytes, which is a lot of gigabytes, but we ended up using all of it. And I'm pretty sure, I didn't check when I got it. I didn't even look at the screen. I just looked at the SSID and moved on. But I'm pretty sure it was 0 when he gave it to us, and we had already used 50 gigabytes in 3 days.
That's impressive.
And I had restrained myself and decided not to download the 18 gigabyte file from school that I wanted to download. So yeah, we had used 50 gigabytes in 3 days. So then I went to him and I said, it's full. What do I do now? And he goes, well, I have one more, but that's it. Like, after that, we're done. And I'm like, okay, we'll take one more. We got 3 more days. We can do one more. It'll be all right. Especially if we decide to be a little bit more frugal in how we do things. And sure enough, I think when we left, I think the second one had 30 gigabytes. And I got to tell you a few things. I realized I had downloaded a whole bunch of shows on my iPad with Amazon before I left, and we had watched some of them, and I had forgotten that Amazon Smart downloads. So when my iPad was plugged in overnight, it downloaded a few other episodes, and I was like, no, you don't have to do that. I have plenty. And then the last day I decided, I know, I'll turn off my Wi-Fi overnight so that it doesn't download these episodes. But in the morning, I turned on the Wi-Fi just before we left to check a few things on my iPad, and even in that few minutes, it downloaded 2 more episodes. I was like, oh man, I was trying to be careful. I should have just turned off Smart downloads in Amazon, but oh well. I was like, man, I was really trying, because of course I didn't watch them before I left. We were leaving at that point. We were being a bit more careful. I'm very glad that I didn't hook up my Apple TV to the Wi-Fi. I had only hooked up the Apple TV to my own personal Wi-Fi hotspot that just creates a network in itself. It doesn't connect off to the internet. It has a memory stick in it that the Apple TV can connect to watch videos with, so that worked out well. Yeah, we use a lot of internet, I guess. So I got to be a little bit more careful about that when we go to these places.
Aside from your Hakone trip, were there any other...
No, we didn't. My wife was smart. She brought this up, and I was pleased. She said, we should go to Disney the day before Japanese school lets out. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea.
Sorry, I'm laughing because one of our listeners asked me this morning, so has Nate gone to Disney yet this summer? Because they know how often you go.
The answer is we didn't. We played the weather game. I was looking now. Of course, you don't want to go now because it's baking hot. My goodness, you don't want to be at Disney right now. But we were able to play the weather game. Their tickets were not sold out. And tickets right now are not sold out either. So we were like, wow, they're just still selling tickets. And if they're still selling tickets on the day before that we're looking to go, that must mean it's not that busy. And we'll only want to go if it's not that busy, and we only want to go if the weather's good. So this time around, we were able to play the weather game, and the weather ended up raining that particular day that we were looking to go. Ended up being rainy. Not as much here. It predicted a lot of rain here, but it didn't rain as much here, but it did downpour over top of Disney. So, we're about an hour away, so it downpoured there. So I was like, it did rain enough that we decided that we weren't going to go. So I think it was a wise decision, but it was a little disappointing. And after that, Japanese school let out, and I think tickets were still good. Tickets were still good then, but I don't want to risk it. I think it would be more busy, and soon after that day, it got baking hot. So,
what, you mean you don't want to go to Disney when it's 38?
No, I don't want to go to Disney when it's 38. I mean, did you see, there was an alert on the phone this morning from Yahoo, just after I had finished my running, that said, don't go outside, don't exercise, you'll get heat stroke, don't go anywhere. Warning, it's too hot. I'm like, well, I just finished my exercise.
No, didn't see that at all.
So yeah, it's hot.
I feel like for me, the past week I have run from air conditioning to air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I've gotten to the point where I have realized that there is, now 15 days left before we have to be back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I am further behind on the projects that I wanted to get done.
Well, and what's funny too is when Japanese school let out, I kind of give up on doing things, vacation things, because everything's just too busy after that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do maybe a day trip here and there. Hotels get too expensive because everybody else is taking their vacation. So I kind of, especially in August, it's just too expensive to do anything. So I was realizing this year, more than other years, I think, as soon as July 20 rolled around, I was like, okay, vacation's over. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, no, we still have almost a month of vacation left. but we're not going to do anything. We just have a month of vacation left. So I try to squeeze in as much before that as I can.
Makes sense. No, it's the productive things that I was hoping to get done that I'm not quite where I want to be. The big ones are my class is not where I wanted it to be yet.
No. Mm-hmm.
I mean, thankfully, I'm not teaching it until second quarter. So technically I have...
Oh, you still have some time, yeah.
I have 3 months after the school year starts, give or take. Well, no, not 3 months. 2.5 months.
Probably 2 full months, yeah.
2 full months. But because it's about 20 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, about 2 to 2.5 months. But the difficult part is the fact that I need to finalize books.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been tearing through novels in the past week. I have been trying to read as many books as I can to decide on which ones I'm going to include in this class. And just, I'm not where I need to be. And then the other side project that I always am working on, I'm in a better place than I was about a week ago, but I am much further behind than I was intending to be at the beginning of the summer. Mm-hmm. You know, that sort of thing.
But I have big news for you on my project, Ryan.
The grading project?
The grading project, which is called LearnerBuild.
Oh, you're announcing the name. Oh.
Because I now have a public webpage.
Woo!
In my race to get things finalized in such a way that I can start selling it to more people than just my school, I've created a webpage. So people can visit learner.build, and I collect no analytics. I have no idea how many people will visit it after I announce this. But you can go to learner.build and see my one public webpage, which is very poor right now. I'm first to admit it. Not a great webpage, but it will work.
Does it give people an idea of how the grading system works?
Yes, it points it out. When you go, does it redirect you to the login?
Well, right now I'm signed into my school account on this computer, so probably. Oh, no, it sends me to the
homepage?
The first page, yeah.
With the scissors?
Yep.
Which is just like, okay, I got to go to school and take a few pictures. And actually, I was realizing that this is a pretty good time. Actually, next month when school's getting going, I can go into school and take pictures of classrooms pretty much set up with no students inside, everything neat and clean, because the school hasn't started. So I'm going to see if I can steal some pictures at school next week. So yeah, there's a page. It gives ideas of what the software does. It is not complete. I want to make them clickable. That goes to longer explanations. But now that I at least have a page, I'm going to move on to other things that need to get done also before I can start selling it to other schools. I'm doing pretty good. I got a lot done while I was in Hakone. That's for sure too. The public page took me a lot longer than expected, mostly because I had to basically design what happens when you're in a non-logged in area. I hadn't had that before. I've only had a logged in area. And how does it handle it? Well, I decided that I wanted to use the same page load system in the non-logged in area as I use in the logged in area, just for simplicity. That way I know what I'm expecting. I actually had already designed a non-logged in area that was a completely different system, more similar to actually how we do things at school with PHP and just loading parts of the page with PHP. But I realized, why do I do that? Why do I have a separate page load system? And the non-logged in, I'm just going to use the same page load system that's based on JavaScript. So I had to rework that for what happens when you're not logged in. And that took a while. But now I'll be able to build more pages easily. It's just I haven't designed them. And then it was a matter of getting all the slide overs to work and things like that. And getting it to work in mobile and, fun things. So, and the hard thing is, in Safari, open up your inspector. Do you know where the dark mode button is?
All right.
Hit the dark square button.
1 sec.
Wait, you're in dark mode already, aren't you?
I'm always in dark mode.
Oh, okay. What happens when you click the button? Does it flip you to light mode?
It does.
And then the pictures change to light mode too. Did you notice that?
Oh my gosh. You spent way too much time.
That was work. Let me tell you. Because I was like, oh my goodness, I can't have the background be in dark mode, but then these screenshots that I have be in light mode too. I was like, I have to have dark mode pictures for when the thing's in dark mode. And then the little video that plays to show the live score update thing.
Oh, yeah.
I have to have that in dark mode. Because again, I can't have live updates, can't be a still image, right? I mean, it's to show you the live updates. So, interestingly, taking all the screenshots didn't take a terrible amount of time.
No.
Once I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I have a template. Of course, I have to have a template in OmniGraffle for the still images and a template in Final Cut for the movie one. It's like, oh, goodness. Once I decided what I was going to do, it wasn't terrible. But, I have to have it be dark mode, so I have to take 2 pictures. I had to get the demo data set, which, do you like my little demo data with the inklings and the Care Paravel?
Yeah, I did.
So I have to have demo data. I have to have this. I have to, most of the time I did try to avoid names, but some of them have to have it because of what I'm picturing. And getting the slide overs to work. And I didn't realize that the slide over thingy that I use that makes things slide over each other doesn't like it when you have a flex that will be bigger in mobile view, right? Because all of these have to stack in mobile view. And the slide over thing did not like that. I was like, oh, you want to stack them? You mean you want this to be much taller than it is when it's not in mobile view? I was like, oh, goodness. So I had to program around that. It took a lot longer than I expected. Part of it is I am not really good at marketing. That's the big part, I think, is I don't know what to brag about. I mean, I know what I think is cool, but I'm not sure that's what teachers really think is cool. And I don't know how to write marketing text, which before I had this, I had like bullet points. I was like, oh, I'll just list it in bullet points. Bullet points are boring and they look ugly. And then I had to describe things and I'm like, oh, goodness, I don't know what to say to describe it. So pictures are better, but they're not great. And then even if you click them, it's going to need text. So I'm not good at marketing. This page really is a page. It works. It's acceptable.
Yeah. My personal feeling, I like the mobile view better. I think it's nicer simply because, and here's why. For me, the pictures that are describing the things that it does
show up bigger.
They're bigger. They give you a better idea of what do you mean by reports. Well,
and that was another thing. I had to make the pictures be fairly large. Like to get those pictures, I zoomed in the webpage like 400% on my 27-inch monitor so I could get as large as I could so that when I shrink it down to fit on that thing, that there's enough space that it could still look good when it's in a mobile view. So yeah, I mean, I could make them larger.
Yeah, I think it's just the desktop views seem so small that I can't really tell what you mean by view by grade, trends. They're small pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're cool and I like it, but I think they could be bigger or flashier or draw more out by what do you mean by fully featured.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, well, that was a tough one. Like, okay. I mean, one of the reasons I used that was because that's what I have on my slide. Like I did a presentation a while back and fully featured was one of the things I bragged about. And I did try to stick as many features as I could in that little window, but still, it's busy. Yeah, mobile view is probably better, but yeah, it's a page. It works.
Yeah, I think that you could, I don't know, pizzazz up the desktop view a bit more. But that's just my feeling.
No, I agree. Well, and I have space for a Learn More button that I took away because I didn't want to make that page yet. So there's space at the bottom of each slide for a Learn More button. That's just not there because I didn't want to put it in. I wonder if it'll even change by the time we post the episode. But I have a page now. I went and took some pictures in first grade and second grade to have on our thing. It doesn't have any students. And I'm not sure I'll be able to take a photo with students. And I was saying to my wife, I could, of course, go to an online stock photo website and buy photos from them, but they're just going to be cheesy. And you know what? I can take pictures of cheesy things. I'm good at cheese. So instead of spending a few, tens of dollars, probably not too much, on cheese, I just go spend 20 minutes taking photos at school of cheesy things. And I can get, I'll get okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a page. It works.
Yeah.
Comprehensive is really long on an iPhone 8, but oh well.
Yeah.
But there we go. Yeah, hey, if anyone listening has a school that needs a grading system, I hopefully will be ready by the time this episode posts to sell it. I am very close now. I finished all of the registrar principal stuff. I just had a whole bunch of little things that our registrar couldn't do, and because I work here, I can just do it for us. A bunch of little things, like adding a grade scale. It's not perfect. I would like to make things easier for the admins because I feel like a lot of services like this are really poor in the admin interface, and I think mine still is. But I think it can be much better, and I will put more time there. So after finishing this, I'm working on something for teachers still that needs to be done, but I'll be able to put more time in the admin interface later. But right now I'm working on assessment setup, basically. And it was something that was working, and I've torn it apart, and I'm starting to build it from the ground up because one of the things I couldn't do before was attach a standard to an assessment that wasn't going to be graded upon. Every time you attached a standard to an assessment, it would ask to grade that standard. And one of the things that we do here at our school is attach standards to high school assessments. And we don't grade them all the time. Sometimes I guess they probably do, but most of the time they don't. But they just want to know, have they covered all the standards in the year? And that's a valid question. But to do that, you need to be able to attach a standard to an assessment and then not grade that standard. So I had to do that. So I am trying to make the assessment area, and this took a while too, because again, it's just I'm playing around with trying to make it as simple as possible. How can I make it? It's amazing how much code it takes to make things simple. I'm going to assume that every assessment you create will probably be graded at some point, right? But there's still a big question. Do you grade like our high school with traditional marks? Mm-hmm. Or do you grade like our middle school with standards? Which one do you grade with? And right now, if you create an assessment, it assumes you want to grade it with traditional marks, but you can easily turn it off. And if you attach a standard, it assumes you want to grade on the standard, which you can easily turn off. But at the same time, I'm also making, and this is where I am right now, is making an area in the class settings where you can say, yeah, those are great defaults, but you know what? I never do traditional grading because I'm in middle school and we just do always standards-based grading. So you can turn that off. You can turn it off so that when you create an assessment, it will not ask you to grade by default. Or you can, in high school, turn off standards grading so that you can attach standards and it won't by default think you're trying to grade on them. You can, of course, always override. You can, of course, always change. So you can adjust your default settings. Ever since we've started, the system always assumes you're creating summative assessments. You can change it to formative, but let's say you do mostly formative assessments and want to do some summative. Well, now you can change it. You can even set the unit and then just change it every time you change units. Go in and change the default unit that enters in. So anyway, there's I'm just making a whole area where you can set defaults, which I hope will be nice and I hope won't be too confusing. I am a little bit worried about it being confusing.
Well, the more options you give somebody, the more rope you give to.
I know, to hang them. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hoping is, for the people that want to use it, can, and the people that don't even know it's there, don't even have to know it's there. They can just keep using the default settings that I already have. Like when you make an assessment, you just unclick grades if you don't want it. So I'm hoping that that's the case. If you don't even know it's there, fine. It'll still work just fine. But if you're a power user and you want to use all the features, you can.
But now you've just told them all.
Well, not many. Not many of our listeners, I think, use it. Some do, but not everybody. It's not posted yet, although hopefully by the time this is out, it'll be posted.
Well, it's closer. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, by the time this episode comes out, I really hope to have all of the things that I said have to be done before the end of beta done. So I'm hoping by the time this episode is up that I am out of beta.
So what you're saying is I need to accelerate how fast we get this one out. So recently, I decided to play a newish game, in comparison to all my old games that I've been playing.
All the old games you play.
I do play a lot of old games. But the game that I was playing pretty recently over break was Ghostwire Tokyo. So Ghostwire is an interesting game. It opens with downtown Shibuya is covered in a mist, some sort of deadly mist that everyone who it touches disappears and they're essentially released from their bodies and their spirits they die. And in addition to all this, a bunch of yokai are loose in the city. And you are an average Joe who dies in a car accident right at the beginning. Or a motorcycle accident. He rides a motorcycle, that's right. Right at the beginning of the game, you have not even met your character and he has died. And at that moment, a spirit that tries to take over your body and suddenly realizes that you're not quite dead.
Not dead yet, huh?
Not dead yet. So you're getting better. So you then wake up. So it is you and this spirit that is now also inhabiting your body, trying to make it through downtown Tokyo, where there is now a yokai, a Japanese spirit invasion in the middle of the city. The interesting things are it's all from first person perspective and you're just jumping around the city and doing a whole bunch of things. Very heavily influenced by a lot of Japanese spiritualism and things like that. But the basic premise of the plot is your character was on his way to the hospital where his sister was. And you are just trying to reach your sister and keep her safe in all of this stuff that's happening. But right as you get to the hospital, the main antagonist, the person who released this mist and caused all the yokai to appear in the city, kidnaps your sister because he plans on using her as essentially a vessel to spoilers that are loosely revealed throughout the story, but he is trying to create a bridge between this world and the afterlife and the other world, because he's trying to connect the two worlds, because he's trying to bring back a person he loved who passed away, and is trying to connect these two worlds because he is convinced that if spirit is eternal and souls are eternal, then why do bodies matter? And let's just connect these two worlds and allow spirits to just continue to live with us even after the physical body dies. And so that's his whole motivation. And your whole motivation is to stop that from happening, because everybody is dying, everybody is in pain, everybody is like, all these bad things are happening. And so you're trying to stop it. It is a whole lot of fun, very action-based. If I had one complaint about the game, it is that too many different actions were all assigned to the same button.
Oh.
So dependent on where you were looking, the same button would do like 3 different things. One of my favorite things to do was, as you leveled up, you could do various things, but one of the things you could do is you could call for a Tengu to appear, which again is another type of Japanese yokai, a Japanese spirit, and you would call for one and then essentially grappling hook onto it and pull yourself onto the top of a roof. It was just a mode of traversal, but it was a whole lot of fun. Lots of jumping around on buildings and flying across rooftops and throwing out fireballs and things like that. But yeah, really cool aesthetic style, really cool world that they built. I'd like to see them do more with this world, but I think that it probably is best as a one and done kind of game. I think that if they tried to make it a sequel, the plot and storyline would fall apart. There wouldn't be a really great way to make the plot continue for the second one. It was one of the last games that Bethesda had promised to send to PlayStation before they got bought out by Xbox. And so because their contract had, this is a PlayStation exclusive, they had to hold on to that contract even after they were bought out by Xbox. I mean, it's a limited time exclusive, so eventually it'll probably go to all the other systems, but
yeah, Xbox too.
Yeah, Xbox and probably computer. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very interesting. You do find out a lot about your backstory and the backstory of the spirit who is in you. The spirit is the one who is actually giving you all these powers to do these amazing things, because he was essentially a spirit medium detective kind of thing before he died. And he died because of the antagonist of the story. So he was trying to find some way to continue fighting back against this antagonist when he found what he thought was dead body.
Actually, Amazon already has it for PC.
Oh, does it? Oh.
But maybe it's exclusive for the...
Among consoles, maybe I'm...
Well, I mean, they only have PS5 listed for consoles, so
yeah.
It must be a console exclusive.
Yeah, maybe. But it was one of the last games that was promised for PlayStation before Bethesda got bought out. So we'll see how many other Bethesda games actually come to PlayStation from now on, because I am doubtful. Because it's owned by Xbox, so, why would they do that?
Do you think it'll come to Nintendo?
Definitely not. Nintendo has a lot of really good exclusive games that I like. I was just thinking about a couple of them. Like this past week, I was playing a game that is essentially the spiritual successor to Suikoden, which is a very fun game for PlayStation 1, if I remember right. Anyway, one of the games that's out on Nintendo that I really like is a game called Octopath Traveler. Really cool RPG. I love the art style. I personally, because I love playing RPGs on PlayStation a whole lot more, because, I don't know, there's something about the controller that I really like over the Switch controller. I wish that it would come to PlayStation, even though I've already played it a ton on my Switch. But, I'm weird like that. Yeah, there's been a couple of older games that actually, that's the thing, is this summer I have been hopping to a lot of older games that have gotten re-released on PlayStation lately. And so I've been playing a lot of PlayStation 2 games on my PS5.
Well, you had to buy the power for some reason.
Well, Ghostwire is a PS5 exclusive game. So it is a spectacular game. So that, and I played a couple of other PS5 exclusive games. I am looking forward to a couple of other ones that are coming out soon. So actually, there is one that just came out like a week, maybe 2 ago that I am so tempted to buy, and I'm trying to convince myself not to spend my money, but I am also very tempted to buy it because it's called Stray, and the full premise of that game is you are a cat. You are a cat who is lost in a world where it's a city just populated solely by robots. And you are a regular cat that is lost in this city and trying to find your way back to your cat family.
Interesting.
And it is adorable and it is wonderful and I really want to play it. But I have so many other games that I've bought that I'm trying to work my way through a couple of the other games that I've bought before I buy more games. You know, why would I think, hey, maybe you shouldn't spend more money on games when you haven't beaten all these other games yet? I know, crazy, right? But yeah, it is an adorable looking game. And there is a button reserved for purring. Or no, not purring, meowing.
Meowing, okay.
So yeah, you have a button that's solely the meow button. So you can just walk around going meow, 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 meow. It looks adorable and I really, really want to play it. But I keep telling myself I shouldn't spend more money until I have beaten a couple more of the games that I've already bought. Well, we'll see how long I hold out. Maybe by the time we record next, I'll have played Stray, and I'll tell you all about it.
Sounds good.
So, this week, we decided that we should go back to an old topic that we said that we would, because there are lots of different ones in this category that we wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to last time. So, we thought, hey, let's go back and talk some more about some board and card games. The last time we did a whole list dedicated to board games was back in episode 11, where we foolishly decided to pick 5, perhaps foolishly.
Oh, wait a minute. We did strategy games.
Yeah, we did strategy games at another point, which I included a board game, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We included a lot of board games. I also included one video game just to be ornery. But we're going to just leave it open for board games and card games in general that we like, that we really enjoy, that we think could use a little bit more love potentially. And I think that pretty much sums it up, I think. So why don't you go first while I decide which of the ones that I haven't mentioned that I'm going to talk about.
All right. I'm going to pick some games I've played recently, I think. And I'm going to pick Euchre as my first game.
Okay.
Now, this is a game I've really only learned in the past year. I have not learned how to play this before. I've been playing it almost weekly, if not weekly, monthly, with 3 other guys because it's a 4-person game. And it reminds me a lot of Rook, which I played growing up with my grandparents and my parents. My grandparents and my parents would enjoy Rook. I liked Rook because there's a lot of risk, and you had to understand a lot of what other people have, and a lot of different ways the game could go. Compared to all the games I played with my children, which there's not really a lot of ways the games can go. Oh, you should play a game called Too Many Monkeys. It's hilarious. There's very little strategy, and it's almost all luck. Anyway, it's hilarious. And it's just a fun game to play with little kids. But anyway, Rook and Euchre are very different than that. And I enjoyed Rook growing up, and I've enjoyed Euchre now this past year. And I think the thing that I've struggled with the most is the fact that Rook is not Euchre, or Euchre is not Rook, and that I keep mixing up the rules. That's the biggest problem. I half the time expect Euchre to be like Rook, and it's not. And I was like, oh, yeah, I got to do this first or that first or whatever. I like both of them in the fact that you have to bid on what you think you can do. Can you win or not? I like that part of it. Usually I can't, but that's okay.
I mean, can you quickly, for those of us who don't really know the rules, can you quickly give me
I quickly summarize the rules? Euchre is a game where it does start off with a bid. Mm-hmm. Whoever wins the bid picks the trump suit. And then you try to play cards in such a way that you win, so everybody lays a card out, and you try to play in such a way that you win each of those plays. You're only dealt 5 cards, so there's not that many, and you have to win, basically you have to win 3 of the 5 hands to win any points. Otherwise, you get euchred in such a way where you lose 2 points. Or no, the other team gets 2 points. So you want to win at least 3 of the 5 plays. I think that's the word. Anyway, there's actually a lot of terms in euchre that I am not quite sure on. Like jacks have special names and things like that, which I am getting the hang of, but still a little bit early at. Rook, you play with a lot more cards. The kitty has more power, things like that. There's a bunch of other rules that are different, but it's similar in the fact that you're playing hands and you want to win as many points. In Rook, it's more about winning points as opposed to winning hands or winning plays. But euchre is more about winning plays and being more strategic like that. I like both of them. I enjoy these games for similar reasons, but I'm going to pick euchre because it's the one that I've learned most recently. And it's a fun game that I've been playing with my friends.
All right. So I'm going to talk to you about a game that I really enjoy playing called Terra Mystica.
Okay.
So Terra Mystica is basically a world where you are trying to build up your homeland. You're trying to build up a control area. So you're doing a lot of economic building, territory, that sort of idea. But what's cool about this one is that everybody starts with a people, like a race of people. And what I mean by that is this can be things like the swarmlings or the nomads or the darklings or the Orin or the dwarfs. It's basically a bunch of like fantasy type things. And yes, I just listed off a bunch based on pictures that I was scrolling through because I was trying to remember all the races, because there's a whole bunch of them and each of them have different abilities and different powers. And so some of them are really good on like building next to waterways, and some are really good at terraforming the land into a different type of land that works with your people. Because what you essentially want to do is you want to build up a territory, but you are bound to essentially your own home environment. If your people are desert people, you need to change the land that you live in to deserts and doing things like that. And so the map starts with a bunch of random territories spread throughout the land, and you need to convert them into your territory. And some are easier to convert. So for example, if you have like a desert and you want to convert it into a swampland, it's a whole lot harder than if you had like a wasteland and you needed to convert that into a desert. That sort of idea. It's very crunchy. It's very like lots of like planning, lots of thinking about possible, like if you do this and then the other person will do this. Basically, your goal is to build up the most land and the most points by having this really great land and lots of very big strongholds and things like that. And everybody else wants to, because land is limited, get in your way so that they can instead do that. So it's all about building up the houses, building up and terraforming the land and just making your really cool world. It is, like I said, really cool. I enjoy it because it is very crunchy. It is very like, if you are sitting down for this game, one game can easily run you like 4 hours. It's one of those type of games.
It's not a cheap game either.
Oh, it is not a cheap game, but it is a whole lot of fun. I actually don't own this.
Okay.
A coworker of ours does. I played it before I moved here, and so I love this game, but I mean, and I haven't gotten a whole lot of chance to play it since I moved out here, but it is one of those games that is proper expensive. What is it on Amazon?
$70.
Yeah,
like
that sounds about right. And that's not even including all the expansions.
No, that's just the first one. Yeah, I did notice a few. I at least saw one expansion in Amazon.
Oh yeah, there are tons of expansions. It is a fantastic game. I love it. Highly recommend it.
Sounds fun. Alrighty, I'm going to steal one from you.
Okay.
Well, I'm probably not stealing it from you. But when we were traveling off to Hakone, I was packing up our games, because we do like to play a few games. And for the first time, because my daughters are now old enough, I took out my set of Clue. My daughters have a thing called Clue Junior, which they've played a few times. But Clue Junior is not really fun. Clue Junior is really a race around the board. Can you get to all the places first? Because you're not allowed to guess until you visited all the spots. So because you've been to all the spots, you know exactly what happened because you've been to all the spots. So that's pointless. Whereas Clue, the real game, you don't have to have guessed everything and known everything. You can just straight guess if you know. We played Clue a lot at Hakone. Actually, we've kind of stopped since we came home. We've played a little bit since we've been home, but not too much. Not as much as we played when we were in Hakone. We played quite a bunch out there. And it was quite fun. It's been a long time since I've played Clue. And actually, it's been a long time since I played my version of Clue, which has, I didn't realize it's Reverend Green in the one I have. Is that the way it's always been? I always thought it was Mr. Green.
I think they updated it.
I think I have a slightly updated one. Mine's not new by any means. I'm pretty sure I bought it in like 2006. In fact, I know I bought it since I've been here because I brought it over without the box because the box was too big to pack. So I have the pieces in separate bags that I have brought over. I know I bought it since I've moved to Japan. So it must be something like 2006, 2007, something like that. But yeah, it's quite fun. It's been a while since I played it. My daughters are hilarious playing it because they make mistakes and they give things away. Like you can't say that. Don't say that. I enjoy playing with them. By the way, Clue is a game where you race around the board. You don't have to race. You go around the board, landing in rooms, making guesses about who did the crime, right? It's the famous Mr. Green in the conservatory with the wrench or the candlestick or whatever, which at least I have all the pieces. I'm very glad I still have all the pieces. And all the pieces came back from Hakone, which I was very pleased about too. You try to guess who did it based on the guesses that other people make because everybody else has cards. You know, I was hesitant to start sharing my strategies with my daughters, but I started sharing my strategies with my daughters. Like, by the way, because you didn't show me any of these cards, you said you had none of them. I know you have none of them, which helps me know what everybody else has. Oh. So yeah, telling my daughters how to think was kind of fun.
Yeah, honestly, I enjoy it. I'm also a sucker for the movie.
I know. That's why I was thinking, I'm going to say Clue, because I know you like the movie.
The movie it has a special place in my heart.
It's been a while since I've watched the movie forever ago. I don't know when I watched it.
Well, one of these days, if you ever have a free night, I do have the video and we can watch it.
Yes, and I have Clue. I don't have Cluedo.
No, I don't have Cluedo either.
Which is, I think that's what the Japanese call it, right?
Well, that's what a lot of other places call it.
Oh, not just Japanese? Okay.
No. All right, so I am going to pick Argent. The full name is Argent, the Consortium.
Oh, has a colon in the name, huh?
Yes, because, gotta have your colons, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
This is another expensive game.
You're breaking bank.
This is one I own. So the theme is really cool on this one, and I really like it. So essentially, there is a University of Magic called Argent, and the Chancellor has decided that they want to step down. And so it is time to decide on who the new Chancellor, who the new head of the school is going to be. And you are one of the candidates for the job. So it is a worker placement game where you're building an engine and trying to get a whole bunch of points so that you can, at the end of the game, the person who gets voted into being the new chancellor is the person who gets the most people on this council to vote for them. And they will vote for you based on what you have built up. So it might be something like you have the most wisdom, or you have the most intelligence, or you have the most points in the divinity school of magic, or most points in the sorcery school of magic, or things like that. And so depending on what you build up, you can get different points and you can figure out who is in the council for electing changes. And so you are building up an engine, trying to get the most points, trying to develop your different thing. And another really cool thing. So again, this is another one where each player gets different special abilities. So at the beginning of the game, you choose which character you are running for the chance at being the chancellor. And each character, and yes, they are actually characters, they have names and they have like special abilities and all that jazz, have different special abilities. So you can do different things based on what your character is and what their personality is like. So, for example, there is one character who is somebody who messes with time a lot, and so they'll be able to rewind and do things like that. There is one character who is more of a healer, and so because it's a worker placement game, so your workers are your students. So you've gotten all these students into your department and you're using the students to go and do the things you need to do to get more points. And so you can make your students like recover. And yes, you are using your students to make sure that you are the one who looks the best at the end of the day. Use your students so that you get voted in. Yeah.
That's what we do at our school all the time.
Exactly. I mean, why do you think that I am definitely voted into being the new chancellor of the school? Because I know how to use my students now. Mm-hmm. And so there are different schools of magic, and each of the different schools have different abilities. And then there are spells that you can cast and do things like that. And you can advance the powers of your spells. So like do more research into the spell so it does better things. And it's really cool. I think that it's very fun. Again, another super crunchy game where you have to do a lot of thinking, a lot of strategy. And because what the win conditions change per game, it is very variable. Also, just so you know, the council, the people who are choosing who the new counselor is going to be, that's secret at the beginning of the game. It's like dealt out, but it's secret. So at the beginning of the game, you don't even know what you should be going for. Yeah. You have to figure that out.
So you don't even know what they like or something like that?
Yeah, you don't even know that. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. But yes, it is all about like planning, building up your engine, building up and thinking through your best moves. I highly recommend it. This is one of those games that I own. I supported one of their newer games on Kickstarter and got this as part of the bundle of like, I really will support this because this group has done a lot of really cool games.
It's actually not too expensive in Japan. Well, I mean, it's not more expensive than the other game. This one, it was only a mon in Japan. I couldn't find the price in America, interestingly.
I think most of the places that I've seen it, it runs about $70 to $80.
Yeah, so it's not cheap, but...
It's not cheap, but it's not terribly expensive. But, you know, compared to like some of my other games that run me upwards of $150, $200, yeah, I've spent money. We have a lovely drink for us today. Oh, gosh.
Who bought this?
I am the one who found this, and I regret it so much because it looks horrifying. But I had to buy it because it looks horrifying.
Wait, is yours clear? I didn't remember it being clear before.
Oh, it's clear.
Oy.
Yeah, it's clear. So... Again, I think I've talked about this before, but when it comes to picking drinks for this part of the episode, while Nate has standards, I go for pure chaos. And what pure chaos called out to me this time was one called Karage Cola. It is a Pepsi Zero Karage Cola.
Is it really Pepsi Zero?
It is Pepsi Zero.
Oh, I didn't see that before either. Oh my goodness.
It is clear Pepsi. And for those of you who do not know, karage is fried chicken. So that is right. It is a Pepsi Zero with the flavor of fried chicken and cola. As I said, I saw this and thought pure chaos.
Yeah, and it's 600 milliliters too, because why would you give a good drink more? You would take the worst drink you have and stick another extra 100 milliliters because you're not going to sell it anyway, so you might as well fill a big bottle. Ay.
It's Pepsi Zero, though. How could it go wrong?
Pepsi and Zero right there, both, two big strikes against it. We were at a restaurant today. My wife said, "Is it Pepsi or Coke?" And my daughter goes, "I can't tell the difference. They're the same, aren't they?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness." She's like, "But you drink Pepsi when we go to Costco." I was like, "Because that's all they have. And it's better than the Mountain Dew that they're selling." It's a small praise.
Well, I know how you feel about it. But, again, I had to choose it. How could I say no to this? Yeah. So I'm willing to give this a shot.
I'll give it a shot because it'll be entertaining for me too.
Oh, it'll be entertaining. So, shall we?
Smells like Pepsi.
Smells like Pepsi. I'm not smelling any karage yet.
No, I'm not smelling any karage, which is also a little worrying. I'm not tasting karage either. Do you think it just means that it goes well with karage? I think we've been duped, Ryan.
Have we been duped?
Or lack of Japanese.
What is this one? It's a dedicated?
Like special cola.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading is Karage Special Cola. I was expecting Karage Cola.
Oh, like breaking down the oil.
Oh, it's good at breaking down oil?
Yeah. We're duped.
So what you're telling me is I was expecting Karage flavored cola, and they just meant that it was Karage best paired with Karage Cola.
Yes.
And now I just have 600 milliliters of Pepsi Zero.
You know, I did believe you that because it so looks like it's going to be Karage flavored.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I read Karage dedicated cola or special cola.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that sounds like it's Karage Cola. But no, in the small print, it's like, no, this is just Karage pairing cola. Like, yes, the Pepsi notes go so well with this Karage.
I'm not sure it would go well with Karage.
I'm going to tell you, I don't think it goes well with anything. But then again, I also paid almost nothing for this cola. So
you don't feel like you were gypped in value?
I do not feel like I was gypped. I think I ended up spending like 120 yen for the 2 bottles.
Oh, pretty good. Do we rate?
No.
Pepsi?
I'm giving it an NA.
Not applicable. Not good enough for mention, huh?
No, because if it was chaos, I would encourage this, but it was nothing. It was a lack of trying. It was Pepsi going the coward route. I was just hopeful.
I think I can give it a 1.
Yeah. If I'm actually giving it a point, I could go as high as 2.
As high as 2? Woof. That's generous.
I'm just thinking about what I've given 1s to. I don't want to put that on the tier of as bad as those. This is not good. It's bad.
Wait. Is spicy ginger ale better?
What did I give spicy ginger ale?
2.
Spicy ginger ale, no. It's not better. I'd say it's on par with spicy ginger ale.
What? Spicy ginger ale is pretty good.
No. Remember, spicy ginger ale was painful for me. I died a little that day.
And today?
I don't know if I die, but I think I'm just so severely disappointed. I wanted to be horrified.
Do you think it would have been better if it tasted like Karage?
No, I think it would have been awful, but I think it would have been funny.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the humor. I wanted the joy.
I almost wonder if it actually would have been better if it tasted like Karage.
I probably would have, actually. Because any flavor is better than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lack of flavor. It's like, we're Pepsi Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 0 flavor.
So what are you going to decide on?
2.
2.
And once again, for those who are waiting for a Kit Kat, there are still no new Kit Kats that we've found.
I've been checking. I haven't seen anything new.
Mm-mm.
Disappointing.
We're going to have to go to a specialty store downtown or something.
Yeah, and I forgot to look at Jagariko again or something too, so
yeah,
we can branch out a little bit, but I forgot to do that.
How dare you? So Nate, I had you read a book.
You had me read a book.
Yeah.
We've been reading lots of books.
We have. And guess what? Next time that it's my episode, apparently I'm having you read another book again.
Yeah, I know. I read it, Ryan. Actually, I read it last week, so I took some good notes to make sure I would remember the good things to say.
Good. Here's a bit of a spoiler. I not only reread this one, but because I was trying to remember what was in which book, I reread both this one and
the next one?
And the next one.
Oh, okay.
So I'll probably have you read that one sooner than later.
Okay.
Because that way I won't need to get another refresher before then.
And we talked about the first book in this second generation of Mistborn.
The first book was Alloy of Law. Let's start at the beginning. So I had you read a book. I decided that it was important to continue with the Mistborn series and keep you going. And so this week I had you read Shadows of Self, which is book 2 of the Era 2 of Mistborn.
Book 2 of Era 2.
Book 2 of Era 2. Don't worry, Era 3 exists, at least in the author's head. He says he's going to write it eventually, after he finishes Era 2. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I had you read Shadows of Self. We also read earlier this year Alloy of Law, which was book 1 in Era 2 of Mistborn. I think we read that, not too long ago.
Not too long ago. The episode was posted early June. Yeah, April-ish is when we...
So back in episode 57, we talked about Alloy of Law. And so now, here in episode 63, we are going to be talking about Shadows of Self. And sooner than later, we'll probably be getting into the last one, which is the third book, which is Bands of Mourning.
Right, because the fourth one's coming out the end of this year, I think, right?
That is the rumor, which is part of why I am moving at this clip. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because I'm thinking that I'd love for you to be up to date and reading book 4 when it comes out.
I did have a nice realization that I could read Coppermind and be only one book behind. So I was very careful about what I looked up on Coppermind this time, but I was like, I probably won't get too many spoilers now that I'm only one book behind.
Yeah, don't go on Coppermind. We've talked about this.
I was very careful. I didn't learn any spoilers. I'm good.
Yeah, you learned one spoiler last time you did this. You learned about a character who hadn't been introduced until this book. But all right, before we get into all that, let me say, for those of you who have not read book 2 of Era 2 of Mistborn, in fact, if you haven't read any Mistborn, you're a little bit far behind, so get caught up.
Yeah, please read them. They're fun.
They are.
Which my daughter is like, you read book 5 in a series? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you read that many books? I'm like, yeah, I read 5 books. She's like, wow. It's like, you do it all the time? What are you talking about? You read 7 Harry Potters. What are you worried about? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and these ones are a lot shorter than Harry Potter.
These ones are.
Yeah, just wait until I get you started on some of his other series.
Yeah, well, I did tell you, right? I was shocked. It's like, did you realize the Stormlight Archive books are in 2 books in the library? Like, one book is 2 physical volumes.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, the Stormlight Archive books are enormous. And the thing is, those books are the ones that kind of reach their tendrils out and interconnect with all the other ones. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing, is as you get further and further, you're going to eventually need to read those if you want to get an idea of what's going on in certain places. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so if you have not read this book or any of the other Mistborn books, get caught up. They are a whole lot of fun. If you have read it and it's been a long time, I, as always, am going to give a bit of a summary. Shadows of Self is book 2 of the second era of the Mistborn series. At the beginning of the story, Wax has found a place, protecting the people as a deputized member of the constabulary. Wax is continuing to research ways to discover more about the set, the organization that his uncle is involved with, when the brother of the governor is killed by a steel runner, a ferrochemist who can store and spend speed. Wax investigates this and finds that there is only one steel runner in the entire city. And when they find that steel runner, they find that steel runner murdered in a way that would have created a new hemalurgic spike. When Wax prays and tries to talk to Harmony, his god responds. And they say that this whole thing, this murder, the things that have been happening, are all due to a rogue Kandra named Pa'alm. This Pa'alm is sowing unrest in the city and responsible for a lot of deaths. She has gone mad and ripped out her own spikes, the spikes that make her sane, make her who she is, and has found some way to give herself allomancy and ferrochemy through hemalurgy. But only one power at a time, as any more would open her up to Harmony's control. Wax and Marasi become convinced that the building unrest in the city will be triggered finally by the death of the current governor. And Wax also thinks that Pa'alm must have some sort of personal vendetta against him. And when Pa'alm lures Wax into a set ambush, he is saved by Milan, another Kandra which Harmony sent to assist Wax in his endeavors against Pa'alm. But things really kick off when Pa'alm, posing as a Pathian priest, kills a survivorist priest by spiking him into a wall. Pa'alm attacks the governor and then is thwarted by Wax and Wayne, is only able to kill the governor's bodyguard before fleeing. At this point, the governor, sensing all the unrest and fearing for his own life, institutes martial law. Wax further investigates and finds twisted men in the Kandra homeland, created by hemalurgy, created by Pa'alm. And only then does Wax realize that all these things, all the hints, all of the various things happening, were all there to distract and keep Wax away from everything that's happening. At this point, the unrest finally explodes, and he realizes that it's not the governor who is speaking, because the governor has already been long dead and replaced, and was Pa'alm all along. After this is revealed, Wayne and Marcy try to have Milan appease the crowd by pretending to be the governor, but when things go poorly, Aradel, the constable general, arrests the governor owing to the proof of crimes that Marcy had given him earlier. This helps ease and appease some of the tension in the city. All the while, Wax gives chase to Pa'alm, who eventually shows him the face of Lessie, his former wife, and in their fight, he eventually fires a bullet at her, and she doesn't dodge it, as bullets do nothing to the Kandra. Only then she realizes that the bullet was created from the hemalurgic spike that he used to communicate with Harmony. This allows Harmony to reassert his control over Pa'alm, and who, rather than return to him, chooses to die. As she is dying, she reveals that she was not impersonating Lessie, but was Lessie herself. Milan lets them then know that the spike they recover from Lessie's body is a metal that even Harmony, even God, doesn't know about. And Marcy again asks, remembering the words of Miles' 100 Lives, who or what is Trell? Whew, this one was convoluted, because as a lot of these ones are, this is a mystery, and you're trying to figure out it the entire time. So I do think that this one has a bit more of a downer ending than the last one.
Yes, especially for Wax.
Especially for Wax, yeah. But I'm assuming a lot, I think, but did you like it? How did you feel about it?
I liked it. I think I liked this one more than the previous one for a few reasons. Yeah, well, let's get to those later, though. But I think I liked it more than the previous one.
Okay.
I think Wayne had a lot of excellent zingers again this time.
Oh, Wayne was, spot on.
Loving that. Perfect execution from Wayne. One of the things that I found similar to the previous book was this all happens in the span of hours again. I think this whole book spans 2 days, maybe?
Yeah. I think it's got to be like 2, maybe 3 days at most.
I think that's pretty good. I really liked at least the introduction. I hope the third book goes into this a little bit more, but I liked the portrayal from the other characters, not from Wax, but the portrayal from the other characters of how much a menace a vigilante is. Sometimes Batman kind of talks about, at least in the ones that I've watched, they kind of talk about it yeah, Batman, he just gets to save the day and runs off, and the police have to clean everything up. And they talk about it a bit in Avengers Civil War. But this book, I think, has a much better, probably much more realistic portrayal. I always hated, in Civil War and the Avengers stuff, the people are like, oh man, they're so annoying. Or J. Jonah Jameson in some of the Spider-Man stuff recently. They're so annoying. They just come and they wreck everything. I'm like, did you see the bad guy? Did you see that he beat them? Come on. Yeah, they wreck things, but if he wasn't there, that bad guy would have taken over. Yeah,
it's one of those things where the line that I really like in the whole thing is, I think it's something along the lines of, he gets things done, but it'd be nice if he thought about the cleanup that other people have to do.
Yeah.
And it's that acknowledgement, he's effective. He gets it done.
He gets it done when we couldn't have, probably.
Yeah.
I guess he doesn't say that precisely, but...
But I think he probably would acknowledge that. There are certain things that, there's no way he could have done.
Even this one. So,
yeah.
I like that, because I think that's more realistic. The J. Jonah Jameson thing and the Civil War thing, I can't believe people are that ignorant that say, oh yeah, these superheroes, they just destroy things. Did you watch the movie? Did you watch the movie I'm watching?
Yeah, no.
Of course they don't, because of course there's not cameras on them. But still, they got to know there's a bad guy that they're defeating. Anyway, so I felt like this was a much more realistic depiction of a vigilante that's actually helping.
Where they're we don't always like the fact that you can get away with pretty much everything, but you get the thing that we want to done. You can cut through some of the red tape that we can't deal with. Yeah.
So I much appreciated that perspective.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found quite interesting with this book was the parallels between the state of Elendel in this book compared to the state of goodness, what's the capital city in the Final Empire?
Why am I blanking on it now?
I had it earlier, and I didn't write it in my notes because I thought I'd just remember it again. But anyway,
the capital city
of the Final Empire. In the first Mistborn book, while it's not exactly the same, and maybe still not quite as bad, the people have kind of worked their way back to a noble caste and a peasant caste. And they still talk about noble birth, and the fact that, was it Aradel, the captain? When he becomes the governor, they're like, oh my goodness, he's a non-noble born governor. Wow, shocking. Like, come on. Like, I think that's what Harmony was trying to avoid.
Well, the thing is, they talk about how they have a bicameral system.
Yeah.
They have essentially a House of Commons and a House of Lords. And the House of Lords are the ones who are always there, the ones who are consistent. And that makes them essentially senators. And that's the thing is, like, while... yeah, they were trying to avoid it, they also wanted to make sure that there was some consistency. I think that's the idea behind it. But
okay.
But again, it's the same idea as like in the American system. Apparently, the idea was that the senators would be more of a cool and collected body, that they would have more time. They would be the older, the wiser kind of group. Whereas the House was supposed to, since it has a faster turnover rate, would be more of like the voice of the people. That was originally the intention. Whether or not that actually is the case is another question. But they do talk about how that's the way that the system works in this world too, is that there's two bodies. That there is a House of Commons, the elected people, and the House of Lords, the nobility. Although it is interesting to find out that a lot of the nobility are people like House Ladrian, who are the descendants of, such upstanding people like Breeze.
Yeah, exactly. Upstanding. Well, he was a lord.
He was a lord.
And I did like the description of the modernization, right? And the natural fall of that, right? Like, oh my goodness, the city cabbies are replacing their horse-drawn buggies with motor vehicles, which means that all of the guys that are caring for all the horses are losing their jobs. So that was a neat discussion and something realistic.
Yeah.
I liked that tension. I mean, I guess that was one thing that was different than the capital city of... I gotta look it up. What's the capital city of the Final Empire? Luthadel. Goodness. So, yep. Different than Luthadel because Luthadel didn't have as much modernization. Of course, this is a few hundred years after the collapse of the Final Empire. So, yeah.
I think it's supposed to be 300.
Yeah, 300. Yeah. That was kind of interesting.
The other side of it is the fact that, like, this entire society... while they haven't fallen all completely into just like nobility, part of the thing that is setting apart the different castes is, well, capitalism. So, yeah, that's the other side of the caste system that you're talking about, where basically, I mean, part of the thing that creates that generational gap is money.
Yeah, it is. The greed of the nobility. But I did like the tension that Ladrian talked about it once. Waxillium talked about it once where he's saying, yeah, I had to, what was it? He's saying he wanted to pay his workers more, so then he raised the price of his product more, which means it didn't sell as much. Yeah, I mean, the tension's there. So, I mean, that was, he is thinking about it, but it does mean interesting problems he had. Of course, I liked the return of the Kandra.
Hey. You got Tensoon back.
I got Tensoon back. And actually, one of my questions, and this is one of the things I looked up on Coppermind, and I don't still quite understand it, I think, is how did he get his spikes back? Coppermind wasn't clear on that. I don't remember it being covered in the book. I might have just missed it, that's for sure. But I read in Coppermind that, yeah, he did pull out his spikes during that time where he was supposed to. But then how did they get back in him? Did somebody put them in? I don't know. Did Harmony guide somebody to put his spikes back into the right Mistwraith?
That's the thing is, like, they all took their spikes out. Like, all the Mistwraiths did.
Well, I thought that not all of them did. I thought that some of them didn't.
I think most of them did.
Most of them did, I think. I thought some of the younger ones were still rebelling against that and didn't. And some of them might have died because of that, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, I think most
did, I think.
Most did. Either way.
Well, and maybe, I mean, it's not said specifically, but it could easily be headcanon that the Iron Eyes, Marsh, went around and picked up the spikes and Harmony told him which ones to put them in, right?
Or, I mean, like, if you're just, like, taking out the spikes and, like, leaving them right next to you.
Right, exactly.
Maybe it's just, like, once the danger is past, they all just, like, move 3 steps to the side.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you'll find them on the ground.
Because, I mean, they are essentially flesh blobs.
Right. But I thought the Mistwraiths wandered around. So I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not very clear. It doesn't really matter. I think it can be easily explained away by saying Harmony just told Iron Eyes to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not a big problem, but that was one of my questions, especially because Harmony wants to use them. I did really like the talk that Kandra were preservation and that Wax was destruction or ruin.
Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't always think of himself that way. He's preserving the peace, but to preserve the peace, you have to ruin the evil, right? So, yes, he is ruin. It's not the way he wants to be pictured, but that's what he is. That makes sense. So I like that discussion too. One of the questions I have is, maybe it's just me too, but I don't think it was as clear as to why Bleeder went mad or Pa'am went mad. Did she go mad because of her love for Wax?
Well, from what I could tell, it sounded like, first of all, she refused to obey Harmony in sending him back to the city. And so that initially set them at odds.
Oh, so she's going mad because she's refusing the god, right? Part of it, perhaps.
That's, I think, started her on the trail. Then she removed her spikes and, at the same time, received another spike. And that spike was made of a metal that Harmony doesn't know.
That's why he could never see her.
And because it's something that Harmony, the god, doesn't know, what could that mean?
Right. I'm assuming that's what the third book is answering.
Partially.
Oh, because there's a fourth book, right? What? Ryan, not all my questions are going to be answered again?
Not by the third book, no. But I do think that a lot is answered in the third book. And I think that there's so many good character arcs in book 3 that among the books, I'm going to tell you right now, among the books of Wax and Wayne, book 3 is my favorite.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, well, I finished book 2. I'm going straight into book 3 because book 3 is my favorite of them.
Was this book longer than the first?
Yes.
First of these series? Yeah, I mean, it felt a bit longer, which is fine.
Each of the 3 gets progressively longer. So I'm waiting for book 4 to be longer than book 3 because that's just the way that he goes.
Sorry. Let's get back to Pa'am.
Yeah, Pa'am and Bleeder. Yeah, again, I think that part of it is the fact that she refused, and then in her refusal, for some reason, chose to get this new spike and also keep it to one spike, which destabilized her mental capacity. So I think that's part of why she went insane, was she was so opposed to letting Harmony in that she essentially allowed herself to break down so she could be, and all that. Yeah.
So, I mean, so it does kind of stem from her love for Wax.
Yes, because it sounded like the thing that Harmony was trying to force Wax to do was to go back to the city, and she refused and was like, no, I am not doing that. And so because of that, that led her down this path of, no, I'm going to do this instead. And I think that because she had started to essentially lose her mind and become destabilized, that's what then led her to do all sorts of atrocities. She wasn't necessarily doing these atrocities because she was fighting against God or Harmony, but she was doing these atrocities because not only was she fighting against Harmony, but she was also losing her mind, and so had done a bunch of horrible things.
A warped sense of
warped sense of justice, a warped sense of love. Yeah.
I think it's super hard for me to imagine. I mean, I think it was portrayed here well, but it's super hard for me to imagine how tough it would be to kill the person you love twice. We've read about it in the first book. In the second book, too, we read that it's been really hard for him to get over the fact that he's lost Lessie. He's worked through it, but things come up again here and there. But then he does it again So I like that it was portrayed that it was tough for him, because I think it would have been. I think it would have been really tough. I don't know how tough it would be, because I've never done that, but
I'm glad you've never done that.
I've never killed somebody twice or once. So doing pretty good there.
And I'm pretty sure your wife is glad that too.
Yep. I like that Steris is part of the recovery process this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good.
And I'm going to say, when I was saying good character arcs, I think the way that is dealt with in book 3 is really good. That's one of the arcs that I really like.
His returning to sanity, or his returning to his digging himself out of depression, I guess.
The way that they deal with him dealing with that.
Mm-mm.
That's all I'm going to say, because I want to leave it a mystery until you've read the book.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that I really liked about this book, especially compared to the first one, is that this one returns to the old style of the first 3 Mistborn books, where there is multiple simultaneous plots going back to a crew style of solving the problem. Now, it's not a crew. Wax is a leader in some ways, yes, but he's not directing 9 people to do something together. In fact, I liked that this book had multiple leaders. A leader with Aradel, with Tensoon even leading certain points, and Wax leading certain points, and Wayne leading certain points to some extent too, right?
Oh, yeah. I will be honest. The Wayne chapters are always spot on. Especially when he is putting on a hat and putting on a personality.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see the shift in the way that he talks in his language.
I mean, I love the opening chapter with them chasing the
marksman.
Yeah, the marksman, which is Pa'am, really. Oh, no, it isn't. It's somebody else, isn't it?
It's somebody else.
Because he dies.
Yep.
I just loved how he plays people, how he pretends to be one of them, and they just accept him because of his accent, his hat, his clothing. He just fits right in and just gets all that information. And that's why Wax doesn't ask questions. What Wax was doing was making room for Wayne to do his thing.
What Wax was doing was essentially, I'm going to draw the attention so that they think that this is the main, the main
interrogation
investigation here.
Yeah. Whereas really, no, Wayne's doing the investigation and getting it done because the others can't. I mean, and one of the things I liked about this book too is Maricy's trying to be the law and order. We got to do it correct. We got to collect the evidence. We got to turn it in properly, but still trying to figure out how to do that with a vigilante.
Yeah.
So
she's the Gordon, the one who's like, you get things done, but really you got to do things by the book occasionally.
So I really liked the multiple plots. Not to say that the first book that had basically a single storyline, you're following just that storyline, it was bad. No, it was fine. It was a lot of fun. I mean, if anything, the fact that Wax and Wayne weren't together much of the time this time lost a little bit of comedic value. Of course, Wayne still cracked jokes, but I think he does work better. His jokes are better when he's with Wax. But I like that there was multiple leaders in this one. I liked the Maricy leader, the Aradel leader.
Yeah, I will say that I do think that one of the nice things about Wax and Wayne, though, is the times that they're apart make the times that they're together stand out all the more.
Yeah.
So, like, the times that they're apart really, like, hammer home, like, how good they are together. But yeah, I think it's an excellent, excellent book.
Yeah, especially because, well, one of the things, too, is that there were multiple problems, really. I mean, again, all spurred by Pa'am. I mean, the unrest. Yes, of course, Miles' 100 lives in the first book was the key, and then once you get the key, you take down everything. But this one was, once you took down Pa'am, it didn't necessarily mean you took down everything.
No, because they had set it up so that once things got running, they weren't involved.
Yeah, Pa'am had set a whole bunch of balls in motion, and she needed to be taken down, and Wax was the person to take her down. But all those other balls needed to be caught, and all the other people, all the other characters were the right characters to take care of those issues.
Yeah, as a whole, like I said, I think that this is an excellent book. I agree, I like it better than book 1.
But book 1 was important to have.
Book 1 is very necessary, and I think it sets up all the characters really well, but I do think that this gets into the characters a bit more. I think part of that has to do with the fact of like the way that book 1 was originally written. Book 1 was originally written kind of as a palate cleanser for Sanderson before he moved on to his next series, but he liked it so much that he ended up creating the whole series. But that's the thing is like book 1 was originally written as a palate cleanser. So it was designed as a short novella, a story, that kind of like self-contained sort of thing. Whereas book 2 was oh no, we're making something out of this. We're fleshing out this entire world. We're building this up. And so I think because of that, it changed how he approached the storytelling, which I think is part of why, like, you have all these multiple threads coming together and all of the different problems being resolved by all these different people. But yeah, again, I really like it. I think it's great, but I will say that I said it earlier, but I do think that book 3 is my favorite of the 3 books that are out thus far. And so when we get a little bit further into the year, look forward to Bands of Mourning.
Sounds good to me.
So Nate, what do you got for me next time?
Next time, I was doing a book. Actually, in the episode I'm editing now, I said we got book coming up. But I'm gonna break it. I'm changing my mind. I'm doing a quick change. We're gonna do Severance. Season 1.
Good, because I've already watched it.
Yep, I'm gonna watch it again. Well, some of it again anyway, at least, because I think it'll even be good on a rewatch.
I think it would, but I watched it less than a month ago, so I think I'm good with maybe a couple of spots that I'll rewatch, but I think I'm good.
Yep, Severance Season 1. If you haven't watched it yet, get Apple TV and watch it. It is very good.
Step 1, get Apple TV. Step 2, watch the entire series.
You can probably watch it in the... what's the trial? Is the trial only a week? Maybe the trial's only a week. But it will be a show you will probably binge.
I watched it in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a show you want to watch in 3 days.
Yeah. It is, like 10 episodes, 11 episodes? It's not a lot.
No, it's not a lot.
So it is 9 episodes, and they're about an hour long each.
So it's shorter than Vincenzo.
Low bar.
Vincenzo was very long.
It was good, though.
It was 20 episodes of an hour and a half each. Yeah.
But yeah, it is about an hour each, 9 episodes. So I think I watched about 3 episodes a day for 3 days.
But there are some good stuff to talk about at this.
Yep, it's a good TV series. I highly recommend that you watch it, but we'll talk more about it next time. Well, we hope that you found something nice about this hill that we were willing to die on, and we appreciate all of our listeners coming along on this journey with us. And if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I like these guys, and I wish that I could do something more to support them, know that you can. Visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. But what does it mean to be a member? Well, for the low price of $2 a month or $15 a year, you can help support this podcast. And by doing so, you'll also get access to the members-only podcast, Not My Hill, which is where we discuss things that are somebody else's hill to die on. We have very strong feelings about it, but we're not willing to die on that hill. Probably somebody else will. In addition, you will also get access to the suggestion form, where you can make suggestions for our Listener Hill episodes, where we will watch, read, or climb up a hill that you're willing to die on, and we'll talk all about it. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at the subreddit My Hill to Die On, or by contacting us through Twitter at My Hill to Die On. Or you can reach us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On. I believe the last time we talked about it was in episode 11. Is that right?
This is the one where we decided we'd pick 5.
Yes. Back before we figured things out a little bit more.
Yeah, this is what started our picks.
Yeah, we had a couple of other times where we talked about games and left it open, but board games, we picked 5 back in episode 11. Trying to double check which ones I've talked about so I don't repeat.
That's what I was thinking too.
Because I talked about a lot of games. Because I didn't just talk about 5, apparently. I also rattled off an additional 5 that I wanted to talk about. Oh, wow. Huh. Yeah, I cheated a lot.
Now that I look through our list of media,
yeah,
we should have again picked something like news websites. We had done that already too, but that'd be like the broadsheets. But anyway, games is fine.
I don't do enough news websites, I don't think.
Yeah, me neither, really, actually.
Man, it's starting to heat up in this room. See, the thing is, the air conditioner is in the main room, and that's the one I leave on. The one in the bedroom I never turn on. because, call me crazy, but I think running both my air conditioners in this tiny apartment would be a bit much.
Yeah.
And when I record, I never want to use the air conditioner that's in the bedroom anyway, because it's loud.
Mm-hmm.
So when I record, I shut my door because, better acoustics and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is starting to get warm.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get to the drink, I guess.
Get to the drink. I do not feel like I was gypped. I think I ended up spending like 120 yen for the 2 bottles.
Oh, pretty good.
So
I did notice that the plum seltzer is cheaper than the other seltzers now.
There was another drink that I saw today that I was thinking about because it was like a fruit mix drink, and it just looked awful because it had like every flavor of fruit mixed in there. Then just no.
Mm-hmm. I did pick up the cold peach Calpis, and I put that on your desk. It'll be good. Yeah. It's Calpis, Ryan. It'll be good.
Oh yeah, you know it. But things really kick off when Palm, posing as a... What did I write here? Because autocorrect messed things up. Pathian. Thank you. That's...
Pathian. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I wrote Pathian and then autocorrect changed it to something else. Shadows of... Wow, my voice cracked. I am a year-old man. I should not have my voice cracking. And yes, we are cutting out how old I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am not admitting...
You're not putting that at the end?
No. How about this? I am a man in his 30s and my voice is cracking.
Mm-hmm.
That I might keep. I might still cut.